We are going to roll. Here I am, talk to me. Do 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 do. Hello, beautiful people. This is the Mendo Money Mindset Show. I'm your host, Raymond Habel. This is going to be a great day. I'm excited to have you with me if you are listening to my voice. That means two things. One, you are first listening to KLLG 97.9 Willits, hometown radio. And two, if you continue to listen to me, my hope, my intention, my goal is to inform, educate, reframe, give new perspective, or remind of certain things you can do right now that can help improve your life. I hope you've had a good day so far. If you've ever heard this show before, this show comes in 3 parts. I am a licensed realtor for the last 6 years, been in Mendocino County all my life, and I am a self-improvement enthusiast. So, as such as it fits in, we will talk about the Mendocino County market update for July 2025. We're going to talk about everything with real estate. What are the trends? What's the data? What are we starting to see as we head into fall? Next, we'll talk about the finance portion of this show, where we're going to talk about insurance. What kinds of insurances? What tactics we can use? What does bundling mean when it comes to insurance? And finally, we'll finish it off with one of my favorite parts, because if you think the way I think, and if you feel the way I feel, you know that no amount of money on this beautiful blue earth will make you happy. That is an inside job. And so the last portion of this show will be dedicated to giving us some tactics, some strategies. In today's show, we're going to talk about conflict resolution. What's the words? What's the language? What's the tactics in my toolbox I can use when I need to have a hard conversation? But what's the perspective? How should I be addressing this? When is it time to start having these conversations? All of that we're going to talk about in today's show. First, I want to start off with the Mendocino County market update. As a licensed realtor, this is something we've done since COVID. Every single month, we've made about a 6 to 10 page report dedicated to showing you all the stats, trends, graphics, summaries, pictures, to show you exactly what's going on in our real estate market. This is not the US. This is not California. This is our backyard. As you might be listening to my voice, I'll be talking about stats, numbers, and trends. I know it might be boring now, but if you own a home in Mendocino County, if you are looking to buy in Mendocino County, or if you're simply just interested in real estate in general, this will be very important for you. If you'd like to also have the report to follow along, like me, I'm a picture kind of person. If you want to see these pictures, go ahead and reach out to me. Social media, text message, my contact information's everywhere. And I can have our team send this report directly to you, free of charge. This is my gift from me to you, because at the end of the day, I want you to be more educated and making better decisions. As we start with the Mendocino County real estate market, we're going to talk about the first and probably most important graph today, which is going to be our for sale, our pending, and our sold inventory. For the month of July 2025, we like to compare apples to apples, so most of the time we will be comparing year over year. Looking at the for sale, this is how many homes are actively for sale as of end of July. We're up 27% year over year. For pending homes, we're seeing about a 41.8% increase year over year. And if you don't know what pending homes means, this means transactions, escrows currently going on as we speak. This is the handshake between buyer and seller that starts the conversation. Offer is received, offer is accepted, and then the next 30 to 60 days is that process that we call escrow. Those are pending homes. Finally, we have the sold category. What does our sold metrics look like? How many homes sold last month? Right now, we're seeing a 19.7% decrease year over year. This might suggest a couple of things. We're going to talk about the summary at the end of this, but let's zoom out for a moment. You've just heard three stats. Our active for sale inventory is up pretty significantly. Pending homes are also up even more significantly. However, our sold homes are down. Interesting to see. Let's continue. Next is price per square foot. Without actually seeing your home, I get the question almost every day, which is, Raymond, how is the market? What is my home worth? And the best way to see what I can possibly answer without actually seeing your home is by comparing this metric called the price per square foot. This gathers all of the homes that it's sold, divides all of them by their square footage, and gives us a single metric, our sold price per square foot. And then we can measure that. Did it go up? Did it go down? Did it stay the same? Now, month over month, it did go down, just shy of 9%. However, year over year, marginally, we're up 1.8%. Days on market. Days on market is how many days will the home stay on the market? How long will that for sale sign stay up before these properties get sold? Currently, we had a fairly significant increase. If you're looking at the graph I'm looking at, it was a 4-month decrease down cycle. It's going pretty steady downwards all the way from a high of around 140 days down to what I would say 65, and then had jumped back up in July, now at 147 days. This is a 79% increase year over year. Average active price down 6% year over year. Average sold price down 11%. 11.2% year over year. Last metric we have in today's report is one of my favorite. This is called months of inventory. And the reason why it's one of my favorite is because you get to compare a couple of things at once, and this is a good one number way of looking at how is the market. So months of inventory is this. Here's the example. If you had 100 homes on the market, meaning currently for sale, and you did not put another home on the market, how many months would it take to sell those homes? How many months of inventory, which takes two things into effect. First, what's our days on market? How quickly are these homes selling? And two, what is our active for sale inventory? Right now, we're looking just shy of this, I would say, 8.5 to 9 months of inventory, which by itself is not a very tangible or useful metric. What we can do is compare that year over year, which is a 59.2% increase year over year. So what does this mean? Well, for sellers, it's an amazing time to sell. As we see still a pending metric, homes in escrow up 41% year over year, we are still seeing buyer demand being met. Also, our price per square foot, even though it's plateauing, it's marginally increased, it is still higher than it was last year. The thing to be aware of, if you're a seller in Mendocino County, if you're thinking about selling for whatever reason over the next 6 months, it's going to be these two things. It's going to be, what is the current days on market? What do I need to build into my timeline when I'm anticipating selling? And what is the pricing strategy I'm going to pick that will best fit me and my path to selling my home? Here's what I mean by that. A lot of sellers right now, and I'm seeing this, a lot of other realtors in this area are seeing this, a lot of sellers got caught up in what we would say in a optimistic thinking. They thought homes always go up. They thought that we're just going to be able to keep going past and for more and more expensive than what the neighbor sold 2 years ago. And we're seeing those, unfortunately, being the stragglers on this bell curve that are on the market for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months at a time. I have a couple listings personally that have been on the market for over a year. And the warning is, it is not necessarily a good thing for us to have these homes on the market this long. It's the optimistic seller that priced above market and said, you know what, I just need one buyer. And you guess what happened? They had to do a price reduction after a price reduction after a price reduction to get sold. In some cases, selling less for what they would have if they would have priced their home more accurately on the onset of their listing. So I don't want to be doom and gloom. For sellers, it's not all bad. For sellers, the conversations I'm having with my clients right now, they're feeling a little squeezed. They're feeling like they're driving. Have you ever had this happen? Like you're driving through a thick fog. You just can't see more than 50 feet in front of you. You're turning on your lights the best you can. And all I can say is, look at the data. Pending homes are still up. Price per square foot is still holding steady. If you want to sell, now might be the time. As we start heading into winter, historically, real estate transactions start to slow down. Now, there's pros and cons to that. It's not all bad. However, if you're selling anything that looks pretty in the fall, meaning agricultural land, meaning acreage, now might be the time. For buyers, it is an awesome time to buy. Yes, interest rates are high. Yes, they were 3% back, what was it, 2021, 2022, but we're not going to cry over spilled milk. It gives us no benefit to look in the past and say, I wish I should have, if only I did XYZ. Following that logic, I should have bought Google back in 2000. However, looking at this current opportunity that we saw in July, with the amount of inventory on the rise, with the days on market currently going up, now is an amazing time to make better offers with listings that have been on the market for a long time, that have two sellers that might be more willing to negotiate. My very first transaction as a licensed realtor was selling a duplex. And I think the gentleman, he was a family friend at the time. No, he was a brother of this friend. And I think he just felt bad for me. We sold the home and he was happy, but I'll never forget. We had received an offer. We had been on the market for, I believe, 4 months at that point. And I had done everything I told him I said I would do. I was also getting the help of a lot of great realtors. I was leaning on them to say, what do I do now? And we were going through this listing, and I'll never forget, we received an offer, a very low offer compared to what our expectations were. And I remember sending it to him. I said, hey, take a look at this. Let's talk in a couple of days. I didn't hear anything back. I didn't hear them give me a call and laugh over the phone. I didn't hear them, say, I can't believe this. I got a call 2 days later saying, Raymond, we're going to take this offer. Really? At that point in time, it made more sense for them to take a certain price that was given to them on the table to meet their own plans, which is more than just finances. It was their family, it was relocation, it was opportunity costs. It made more sense for them to take that offer than it would be to hold the property and continue to try to sell it. So, if you're writing an offer, if you're interested, if you have realtors showing you homes, now might be the time to do that. We also like to go ahead, just to wrap this up, we like to do a fun metric, which is the number of homes sold per pricing category. Here's what I mean by that. I have in front of me an 8x11 piece of paper on our report, and the entire page is dedicated to one huge graph. It shows a series of prices. It shows from 0 to 99,000, 100 to 200,000, 2 to 3, 4 to 5, so on and so forth, all the way to 1,000,000. On the right-hand side, it shows us what was the 3 top categories. What was the 3 most popular pricing categories for Mendocino County? And how many homes sold in each category? So get this, coming in the 3rd spot for all of Mendocino County was the price range between $500,000 and $600,000, selling over 47 homes in the last 6 months. That to me is amazing. That to me shows that Mendocino County is not just a small town. It's not just all rural. There's areas where it's beautiful, it's in high demand, and people are paying those prices. The 2nd spot, number 2, is 400,000 to 500,000, selling 48 units over the past 6 months. And number 1, the most popular with the most amount of homes sold in this price range, is 300 to 399. And I can agree with that personally as I see my own numbers in Willits, Ukiah, Fort Bragg, the Coast, Laytonville. We see this 300,000, a very typical number for our region. Usually older homes, catering more to family lifestyles, 3-bed, 2-bath, built in 1980s, very sort of accessible to the average consumer. What did you think about that? What was your number 1 takeaway for us talking about real estate? Are you a buyer interested in this market? Is your partner scrolling in bed at realtor.com looking at houses? Are you thinking of downsizing? Do you have too much house now? Is it a labor of love to keep clean? There are too many stairs. What's your thoughts on that? Do you think the market's going to be hit by these additional tariffs and ever not moving interest rates? I wish I had a crystal ball to tell us exactly what was going on in this market. But as a lot of my good friends have also agreed with me, it is a day-by-day market. And all we can do, to the best of our ability, is use the past and inform us on how we can navigate the future. Next up is finances. Now, before we kind of go to finances, I have a quote that I think would be a great segue into this section. And it's by Rumi. It says, "Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I am changing myself." Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I am changing myself. Can't get any better than that. That is what this show is built on. I have a document that's not public. No one sees it. It's only for my family. And it's sort of a legacy. It's what people call a family constitution. It talks about what's our family's values, what's our mission, what is the things that we find important in our world. And on there, it says a quote. Has many quotes, but this one very much stood out to me when I was a young man. Still am, but in my youth. And it was spoken by the wonderful orator Earl Nightingale, who pretty much started the self-development space years ago. And he said this. He said, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Success is setting goals and chasing them. Boy, ain't that true? Have you ever had a goal that you tried to chase? Let me ask you this. What felt better? Was it the chasing and progress of achieving a goal? Or was it getting the thing? The reason I say all of this is because I am always, every single day, trying to get 1% better. What is one thing that I can implement today that can improve my life drastically for the rest of my life? And it might only be a 2 millimeter shift. How can I say I love you more effectively? How can I apologize in a sincere manner that really conveys that I am going to change this thing I messed up on, whatever that is? How can I better provide to my community, my employees, my family? How can I show up as a better friend? All of these questions, I don't know about you, but I think about them a lot. And it's the 1%. It's the quotes. It's the looking at the finances. It's reviewing the real estate market. It's making this show available to everyone like you. So maybe you can be 1% better. So that maybe you can make a simple, small 2 millimeter shift and make a better life. Got off on a tangent there, but anyways, finance section today is going to be exciting. We are talking about insurance. Now, disclaimer, this is for entertainment purposes only. Talk to someone a lot smarter than me on this subject. I will hopefully give you some tools, tactics, and mental frames to think about, so that way you can begin to ask the questions. Begin to think the things. And then we can find some nuanced consultants, advisors, some information that pertains to you. If you've been in real estate recently, you have been wrestling with the question of insurance. If you've bought a home, if you own a home, you might have gotten a letter in the mail and it says, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, we're sorry. Not really. But we're either A, jacking up your prices, or B, we are no longer going to be writing this policy. That's a very unfortunate conversation I am having right now with a number of sellers. They're saying, Raymond, I had a client just the other day. Their premiums for their homeowners insurance, comprehensive insurance, which included fire insurance and homeowners, was around $2,300 a year. That bill they just got this year went over $8,000 a year. More than tripled. In 1 year, we're having this conversation. Now, what can we do to prevent it? We can do a lot of things. I'm not going to be able to talk about all of them today. However, I have a wonderful couple of articles by NerdWallet that talks to us a little bit about lowering our homeowners insurance. I'll go through these quickly. Again, this is meant to serve as the start of a conversation for you. So hopefully one of these is something you can dive into in your situation. Number one, first and foremost, probably the most straightforward way is to increase your deductibles. If you have homeowners insurance for a certain amount right now and the deductible is $1,000, okay, what would that fee look like if it was changed to $2,500, $5,000, $10,000? Of course, don't just raise your deductible for the sake of raising a deductible. A good mental exercise is to ask, can we afford to pay that deductible if it were to happen tomorrow? If you can't, then you will have to weigh that decision whether it makes sense for you to do that or not. Number two, make your home more secure. If you're in rural Mendocino County, you know that means one thing: defensible space. Cut those tree back, cut those limbs 6 feet up, get all the shrubs, move them out, clean the gutters, make sure there's no trees hanging suspiciously above your roof. All of these things are things that the policyholders like the California Fair Plan and other insurance providers will probably ask of you. And if they haven't already, now might be the good time to be proactive about that. Number 3, it says skip small claims. It might be tempting to file a small claim to your insurer because that's the agreement you have with insurance. I pay you so much a month, and that way if something happens, you cover it. However, you might think twice before submitting that claim on something small, because it will have a lasting impact on the rest of your policy premiums. Some insurance providers will give special discounts to people that have claim-free policies for an extended period of time. So think twice about it. I'm a people person. I love having conversations. I had sort of an argument the other day because someone was telling me I received a letter in the mail and these are the steps that told me on what I needed to do next for this thing. However, there's this one thing that I'm not exactly sure about, but I'm going to assume that it falls under this category, XYZ. And I said, hey, why don't you just call them? The worst thing they can say is no. Like, ask them if the thing that you're thinking about actually pertains to your situation. And this person got defensive. And she said, no, I'm not going to call them. I know. She went from I don't know to I know that this is going to be under this category. And I said, you don't know unless you ask. The frame I like to think about is there was literally someone sitting behind a desk with a computer that wrote these policies and these rules, quote unquote, that we live by. Someone did that. That someone probably had kids. That someone probably had a stomach ache over the past 3 months. That someone was probably going to go out to lunch. Like, this is a person, a human being. The rules that we are governed by were made by the same people like us. So, with all that said, call your insurance guy. Ask, hey, something fell on my roof, something dinged the edge of it. Here's this thing on, this claim I want to do. Would it make sense for me in the long run to do that? Number 4, ask about lesser known discounts. Unless you check, you may never know. Again, having that conversation while you're on the phone with them, say, hey, is there any discounts that you guys offer that I might not be using right now that might make sense for me? A couple to list is if you recently bought your home. If you pay your premium with automatic bank payments. If you pay the whole year, that's less than if you were pay monthly. If you chose paperless billing. If you work in a specific career such as teaching, engineer, or firefighting. I didn't know that. And if you don't have smokers living in your house. All of that interesting. So ask the question. Number 5, account for your home improvements. Let your insurance know that you have been working on. This is near and dear to my heart. I work with a lot of clients that will put massive amounts of money into their central furnace. They'll make their fire stoves more efficient. They'll do dual glazed windows throughout their home. They'll replace the flooring. They'll redo the roof. All of these items are significant. They're making investments into their house, and yet their insurance continues to go up. If my home is getting safer, why is my insurance going up? So it might be worth having the conversation. Over the last 3 years, since I had a conversation with my insurance, as an example, I've gone ahead and done these 5 things. Mr. or Mrs. Insurance Agent, what do you think that would do for me on the insurance? Would that help me in any way? Number 6, bundling your home and auto. Just helped some beautiful clients move into wonderful Willits, California. And they went with their, was their auto guy? They went with the person that they were in, had their car insurance through, because they were able to bundle and save more because of that bundle. So talk about that. Number 7, build your credit. If you want to reduce your premiums on anything, getting your credit up never hurts. And then finally, number 8, shop around. Unfortunately, in this place and this time, Mendocino County 2025, if you currently have a policy and things are going well and it's not the California Fair Plan, knock on wood, count your lucky stars. I still want you to shop around, but before you make any hard commitments about dropping your insurance policy, make sure you're going to get a really good deal, because we are seeing a lot of policyholders non-renew their policies, which basically means, so sorry, even though you've been paying us for 20 years, we're no longer going to insure this house. And that's where we go into the California Fair Plan, and that's where it goes to astronomical expenses. That is all on homeowners insurance. I hope you took away something on that, especially if you own a home in Mendocino County in today's market. That conversation between the California Fair Plan is a very important one. If you're a buyer looking to buy a home, I suggest you call a realtor or have your realtor call on your behalf and ask, how much is going to be the insurance on this property? A good listing agent that's selling the home should know, in today's market, what a new insurance policy would cost on this. So ask around. Finally, I want to end on this. This is not going to be as informative as it will be for tactics, but I want to tell you this to start thinking. This is the average life insurance premium rates for your category, whoever you are, in 2025. Now, personally for me, I have no idea whether you should get life insurance or not. This is for entertainment purposes only. Do what you're going to do. What I will say for me, I've had an insurance policy on me ever since I think I was 19, 20. Now, the reason why was for financial reasons. That was before I had my son. But after I had my boy, it was more important than ever for me to have some sort of bridge between the unfortunate reality of me passing away, especially if it's untimely and my son is still a minor, between that gap of day one and hopefully 6 months, 12 months down the road, when life can somewhat get back to normal. I want a bridge, I want a plan in place that I can do that will hopefully solve a little bit of suffering, because they're already going to have a really tough time if that happens. So for me, I personally think I have 3 life insurance policies now on me personally. And I pay the premiums on them, even though, knock on wood, I'm 28 years old. I've been to the doctors more than I want. I got pieces of hardware in my body that if I were to vote and I was perfectly healthy, I probably wouldn't have in there. But I am safe to say I am the healthiest I've ever been now in my life. I'm eating healthier, I'm exercising, I'm practicing good mental behaviors, which improve your immune system. So why would I need life insurance? Well, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I want to have a plan in place. I can take care of my little boy and our family until someone else can take the reins, until there's a plan put in place. So that's my belief personally. Take that with which you will. We're going to be talking about life insurance, just in general. Now, first of all, you're going to be asking yourself a lot of questions. I am not a life insurance agent. Talk to someone that is, and maybe I'll have actually an agent on the show soon. I hope so. You got to ask yourself a lot of questions. Number one is, how much life insurance do you need? Do you have to have, and do you want? The second is, There's a lot of different policies. There's IULs, there's term, there's whole life. What policy is going to make sense for you is sitting down with an expert and figuring that out. What I will say is term by definition is life insurance for a certain period of time. So I think I have two policies. I think they're both set up at 20 years, maybe 30. And it's basically, what is it, $78 a month for, can't remember, 100, 200,000, somewhere in that range for the next 20 years. And essentially what you're doing is you're making a bet with the life insurance company. You are saying, I am prepared, I'm making my estate plan just in case this unfortunate event happens in the next 20 years that I might pass away. The life insurance company is also making a bet that you will probably live past that time frame. Again, I'm going high level with you. We're not going to go in the details. What I will say is some of the contributing factors that will change this up and down is number one, your age. Number two, it's your gender. Women generally have longer life expectancies. Number three, it's your smoking status. Number four, it's your overall health. Number five, it's your family medical history. Number six, it's actually your driving record. Number seven, it's your occupation and lifestyle. Are you bungee jumping? Even though I think that's a very incredibly low, if you think about like car accidents compared to bungee jumping, driving's astronomically higher. But that is a factor. And then it talks about here, it says the type also, and we talked about permanent versus term. IUL is just a individual life insurance policy. Sometimes they'll tie those with indexes or funds or stocks. Again, not to get in the weeds, but there's several options. Here's what does not impact your life insurance policy. This is what I thought was interesting. Again, I'm reading from a wonderful article from NerdWallet calling average life insurance rates. Your ethnicity, your race, and your sexual orientation. Your credit score does not have an impact, supposedly on this article, to your life insurance, insurance premium on this. Your marital status, whether you're single or married, does not make a difference. The number of life insurance policies you have does not change the premium you'll be paying. And the number of beneficiaries you name. Here's a good question. How many beneficiaries can you have on a life insurance policy? Can you do 10? Can you have 20? I know some people that have the beneficiary of their life insurance policy be an organization like a nonprofit, a school, a cause. That would be interesting. Okay. Here is the average term life insurance policy by age according to this article right here. And this one, it has to assume a couple things to give us numbers. First, it's going to assume a $500,000 policy. And it's also going to assume it's term life insurance. And then it's also going to assume it's going for 20 years. So there we go. There's the key metrics we need in that. We're starting at age 20. Again, $500,000, 20 years. If you're 20 years old right now, the average rate annually for the entire year for a man is $214. For a woman, $177 a year. It's not too bad. For age 30 for a man, it's $215. $185 for women. 40 years old, it's going to be $332 or $280 for women. If you're 50 years old, it will be around $815 for men or $640 for women. If you're 60, it's going to be $2,351. Again, for a 20-year term, $500,000. That's for men, and then $1,651 for women. If you're 70 years old, it's going to be just short of $10,000 for men at $9,666 a month, or $7,900 for women. I'm knocking on wood if you live healthy and 70. That is for non-smokers. They actually gave us a table for smokers, if you want to hear this information. So if you're smoking and you're 20 years old and you try to get life insurance as a man, it's going to be $760 or $586 for women. I want us just to pause for a moment. It is over a $400 increase every single month at the age of 20 years old for life insurance if you smoke. I don't know about you, but there's not a lot of decisions you can make. Compounding aggressively that is not in your favor, that shortens your lifespan and also costs you money just to buy, and then also affects things like life insurance. I don't know if there's a lot of other options besides taking up smoking that can hurt you this much. This is incredible. And I say that as a person that used to smoke. I used to smoke a Sherlock Holmes tobacco pipe, pack my own pipe just like my granddad did. I remember when I was a kid, I'd walk into granddad's house smelling that smell of pipe tobacco. Love the smell, but it kills you. Not a fan. If you are, let's go to 40 years old for the smoker, for a man, it will be just shy of $1,500 at $1,489 a month, or $1,187 if you are a female. Going all the way up to, say, 65, it's going to be $13,000 for a man, or $9,969 for a woman. Interesting how that goes. Now, if you want to do whole life, we won't really get into that today. That is a conversation for you and your life insurance agent. But I say this, the overall takeaway is whether you're single, like me when I was 20 years old, whether you have a family, whether you have dependents that leaning on you, or whether you have a plan, a succession plan in place, ready to go, or if you've never thought about it, about what happens when I pass, now might be the time to have that conversation. Honey, I think we really need life insurance. I just heard this guy on the radio, and I think it might be time for us to have that conversation. Or to yourself, what financial benefits can I get from doing life insurance? If you want to get tactical in the weeds about actually having an investment out of life insurance, look into whole life policies. Look into pay riders, additional pay riders. Look into how you can invest using a life insurance policy. All sorts of good stuff, but we'll save that for another day. Last but not least, let's talk about, I think, going to be one of my favorite parts of this show, which is how do we communicate during conflict? This is the mindset, this is the tactical, this is the skills that help us improve our lives outside of just finances. We're going to be talking today about how do we have tough conversations. If you've watched anything on Instagram recently or TikTok, you'll hear or talk about this gentleman called Jefferson Fisher, who is an attorney, a lawyer. And he talks about and was made famous and just went on a whole podcast circuit, because I believe he has a book out now, on how to talk during conflict. He goes also to say how to set boundaries, how to address when someone's negatively chastised you, like all of these things. We're going to be talking specifically about his style today, because there's a lot of material out there. There's a lot of opinions. We'll be sticking to him because I personally like him, and I think his approach is probably the most effective that I've seen. But we'll be going through a number of things very quickly, a lot of tactics, and then we can zoom out and talk about, in general, what do we do? So number one, you want to start with internal control. A great way to do this is to take a deep breath and ask yourself this. What is my goal from this conversation? What do I want the takeaway to be from having this conversation? If you simply stop and ask yourself that one question, that could dramatically impact what you're going to say next. Number two, it says stay grounded. Your body language and your tone set the thermostat for your conversation. It goes on to say, and this is his language too, be an adult in the room, no matter what the other person's reaction is. A third one on this kind of internal control subject is detach from your ego and the outcome. You're not trying to quote unquote win, you're trying to resolve. I've heard Jefferson talk about it like this. He says, you're not trying to win an argument, you're trying to solve a problem. You're not trying to win against your opponent, you're trying to untie a knot. He says most points of tension in a conversation or something like a hard conversation we need to have, he said to think of it like you're untying a knot and not that you're trying to win the other person over. Number 2, it says prepare for the hard conversation, lead with clarity, not fluff. It gives a couple of examples here. It says, hey, can we talk about something that's been bothering me? I want us to be on the same page. The way, and I've seen Jefferson talk about this, he said, give them the outcome when you're bringing this up. Here's a great example. And this is an example I texted to a friend of mine because I wanted to have a hard conversation. And I said, hey, can we talk about this thing that you're doing? By the end of this conversation, I want us to walk away feeling like we're on the same team. I want us to walk away feeling like we are on the same team. Think about that. The next time you need to have a hard conversation, maybe there's a certain person and a certain subject right now that you know you should have this conversation. Think about it when you came up to them. And play this mentor. Say it's someone at work. They said something to the group that really kind of offended you. It was kind of a dig on you personally, and you just didn't really like it. And maybe they don't know about it. Hey, Bob, I want to talk to you about your comment that you said at last week's meeting, and I want us to walk away with a feeling that we're on the same team, but also with an understanding that there are other ways to treat your coworkers. Think about how you can use that. Preparing for the hard conversation, remember the I statements versus the you statements. I've done this wrong plenty of times. You are the problem. You never do this for me. You always leave the toilet seat up, whatever it is. If you start with that you are making an accusation against them, which is pushing the button on their ego. And so instinctively, they have to punch back. They have to play defense. They have to put their guard up and say, well, no, it's you. And you start this downward cycle of just yous. Say I. Right? There was a gentleman, I can't remember his name now. He worked with Dave Ramsey for a while. And he said, honey, this was an example he used. I am having a problem. I am having an issue being attracted to you right now. I've seen you've gained some weight. This is really a me issue. Can you just help? Can we have a conversation around this? Imagine you used yous in that conversation and imagine how that might have gone. Not too good. I am having an issue right now with this thing. I am noticing that there are some things that you're doing right now that really don't resonate with the kind of person you really want to know, because I know you so well. I'm starting to feel a little scared, anxious, jealous, a little angry because I'm noticing these things, right? Once you take responsibility for the feeling you're having, you invite the other person to, like Jefferson says, untie that knot. Number 3, it says, during the conflict, don't match the energy, manage it. Don't match the energy, manage it. I've been very guilty of this in the past. My general temperament is action-oriented, solution-based, positive silver lining. If we got hit by a car, the next thing I'm doing is calling the insurance carrier, making sure everyone's okay, and then laughing it off to say, well, I guess our days switch now. All of that's just my natural temperament. That's what I do. What I do not do well is in previous friendships, partnership particularly, I've had people that just scream and yell, and boy, I didn't know it, but I'm really good at screaming and yelling. Because I was matching. They came hot and heavy, all aggressive, loud voice. And guess what? I didn't manage it. I didn't set the tone. They set the tone. I gave them my control, which did not work out well. It specifically says here, don't raise your voice. Lower it. It says it forces the other person to meet you at your level. Pause before responding. Boof. I love chatting. I love the gift of gab. I love communicating. I love articulating thoughts, ideas. I love sharing these. But because of that, sometimes I don't pause. And there is power in the pause. Take a second. Breathe. Then respond. One, this builds a little bit of space. If you have kids, I have a boy now, he's a toddler, he's 4.5. Sometimes I need that second just to make sure I'm not about to yell at him. I need that pause as my mental internal timeout to give me a break so I can allow my conscious frontal lobe to take a little bit more control versus the impulses, my amygdala, that's immediately saying fight or flight. So take the pause. And then number 3 says, when you want to manage energy, not just match it, it says listen to understand, not to respond. Have you ever had a conversation? You're listening halfway through, you drone out because you're thinking in your head what you're going to say next. Boy, was I guilty of that. I was guilty of that for a long time until I understand that I can influence people a lot easier by being genuinely interested and actually actively listening than I ever could by saying something really smart. Like the best thing I could ever say to a human being is asking them a really good question about something they just said. Because that shows I'm listening, that shows I'm engaged, that shows I'm interested, and people love that. They'll walk away from a conversation and say, boy, that was the best conversation I ever had. I didn't do any of the talking. I just asked you a series of questions, and everyone loves talking about themselves. So that's a good way to manage energy. Finally, the last couple of things, you want to use the 3 R's for conflict resolution. 1, recognize. 2, reframe. And 3, redirect. Number 1, you want to recognize the emotion. Yours, how you're feeling, and theirs. I can tell this is frustrating you. Chris Voss is a famous FBI hostage negotiator. He has this great thing about assuming the feeling of another human being and saying that out loud and the magic it does. He walks up to a stewardess getting his plane ticket, and she's disgruntled because he just heard her being chewed out by another passenger. And he walks up to her and he says, boy, looks like you're having a tough day, aren't you? She shakes her head and she says, you know what? No, I'm having a great day. He then proceeds to tell the story that he gets bumped up to first class. Simply because he took the risk, he showed genuine interest to say, boy, it looks like you're having a tough day today. And guess what? Here's the best part about saying that. Let's say you're wrong. Boy, honey, it really looks like I've made you upset by that last statement. If you're completely wrong, she says, no, sweetheart. I'm not upset at you and your statement. I'm upset because there's something I haven't been addressing that you've really put a pin to. Wow. You would have never known that unless you made that assumption. Unless you verbally spoke out loud the thing you think they're feeling. Because they can just easily correct you. No, actually, if you've ever been in a relationship, honey, are you upset with me? I have this feeling that there's some tension in the car right now, and I'm not really sure where it's coming from. The person shifts in their seat and they say, "No, I'm just hungry." I'm just hungry. That's it. That's all it is. Here I was thinking you were mad at me the entire time, and I'm just hungry. So, conflict resolution, we want to recognize the emotion. And if you can't recognize it easily, make the statement. Be okay with being corrected. Number two, you want to reframe the conflict as a shared problem to solve. Here's a very good example on how I do this. When I talk with a seller, before we decide to work with each other, I make them a commitment. I say, if we decide that working together makes sense for us, if I am willing to take you on as my client, and if you're willing to take me on as your agent, I make a commitment to you that I will follow up with you every single Monday and let you know exactly how your home is doing. How many views did we get from online views? Zillow, MLS Broker, Realtor.com, Trulier. Did we get any phone calls? Did we get showings? Do we have an offer? You'll get that immediately. And the reason why, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm going to make this commitment to you is because when we see 2 months down the road, hypothetically, if this doesn't sell, I want you and I to be shoulder to shoulder on this issue and not face to face. I don't want this to feel like a fight because you had no idea and I came out of nowhere saying, "Oh, your home hasn't sold, we need a price reduction." I want us in the trenches together because I've been keeping you up to date every single week so you know exactly what's going on. And I tell them, I want us to be shoulder to shoulder on this problem, not face to face. Lastly, a couple of good statements you can make, a couple of things that might be useful for you during these conflict times or these hard conversations. Here's a good one. Help me understand. Mr. or Mrs. Coworker, help me understand this thing that I've been kind of puzzled with. A couple of your behaviors I've noticed in the past 2 weeks. I'm not sure if this is a dig towards me personally, but can you help me understand that a little bit more? Number two, what would a win look like for you? Let's say you're having a disagreement on the outcome of a project at work. It's like, okay, Susie, I totally understand. There's a couple of different approaches that you and I personally agree on taking. What would a win look like for you right now? What does that goalpost look like? Because sometimes you just don't know. Sometimes we just haven't taken the time to clearly articulate what we're going after. If you're having a hard conversation with a loved one, it's like, all right, honey, you're telling me you're feeling frustrated and tired and all of these things, and I sympathize. It sounds like it's really hard right now. What would an easy win look like for us right now? Us as a couple. What's something that we could do together to strengthen the relationship? What's something we can do right now to help you personally going through this? Number three, can I share my perspective? This one's really great. It's called asking permission. When you ask permission to give any critical insight for any sort of perspective, if you ask and they say yes, the brain naturally will begin to open up to receiving this information a little bit more. Think about it like this. You do something silly. You know you shouldn't have done it. It was an odd move. Someone immediately bumps into you and says, you know you shouldn't have done that. You know what you should have done? You should have done X, Y, Z. Bum, bum, bum. How receptive are you to receiving that information? If you're anything like me, you're probably pretty pissed thinking of some words in your head at that particular person. That is not very kind. Because it was unsolicited. It was something that you didn't really want to hear at that point. But when someone bumps into you and you did this silly thing and they say, can I share with you a perspective I have on this? Can I share with you a thought process that I'm having? Can I share with you something that maybe I've gone through similarly and that might help you? All of these questions is going to lend to me saying, okay, well, sure, yeah. And then they're going to say the thing and I'm going to be more receptive to it. You could say, number four, this one's a great one. Is now a good time to talk about this? I don't know how many times I've been caught blindsided by someone bumping into me, by a phone call I have, and they really need to talk about this thing, especially phone calls. I love the phone calls. Text messages for me is like the primer to a good phone call. That's basically all the purpose of it. Or it's like one line, how did we do this week? But besides that, the phone calls are best. But it's like, someone calls me. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. My son's running around. He's sleep deprived because he's getting out of this sleep routine. He's hungry. I'm tired. The last thing I want to do is have a tough conversation with a client, a partner. It's like, hey, give me an hour. Let me feed my kid. Let me put him to sleep. Let me go, we'll watch a TV or read a book. Let me go get something to eat. Maybe I just need some water. And then let's have this conversation. Let me think about it and get back to you. Is the last one. Let me think about that and get back to you. You don't have to finish a hard conversation necessarily when it starts. There's kind of two camps on this, and you probably fall into one of them. One is, I don't want to go to bed angry. I want to have this conversation. I want to finish it and get it resolved because it's going to continue to eat at me. And number two is, I want some time to think about this. I want to give you the best version of myself during this process. I want to give you the best. Let me meditate on this issue. I don't want to mess this up. Neither of those approaches are wrong. But sometimes, depending on your situation, being able to pull out of the conversation before things get heated is going to be an asset. Let me think about that and get back to you. Avoid the absolutes. There's just finishing on the statement. Avoid the absolutes. You never. You always. Don't give them a label that you would not give them on their best days. You are always a fill in the blank. You're always lazy. You're always messy. You're always not returning my messages. If you start prescribing those kind of labels, the best case scenario, they're going to fight you on that and you're going to have an argument. The worst case situation is they start to live up to them. Labels are powerful. Don't give bad labels to people you're trying to do good with. And then if you say you never do something, you always do this, that negates a lot of nuance. There's probably a handful of times they did do the thing correctly. There's probably a couple of times where they didn't. But if you say you never,